Headlines about student protests and violence on the streets of Santiago have dogged Chile of late. As the country's wealth builds, so have demands for reform. Education in particular has become a flashpoint as more young Chileans voice their discontent about inequality and unemployment. The odd thing is that most polls show most Chileans are happy with their lot, if not their country. And that is another oddity because Chile is widely regarded as Latin America's best-run economy. It's had 20 years of economic growth averaging over 5% per year, poverty has been slashed, it has solid, stable institutions and a rising middle class which is helping to propel it into the group of developed countries. It's a title that Felipe Larraín, Chile's finance minister, says Chile should achieve within the next 6 years. If there's any snag, however, is that with developed country status also comes developed country style demands.
If we can keep growing at the pace that we have been in the last 2 years, including this, we can reach development, say, a year before 2018. So it's within the reach not only of our generation, but it's within our reach in a few years, but we are not yet there. And this is very important to realize that we need to hold the line, hold the course, be responsible, address the demands of the people, but do it in a responsible way. Not just we cannot agree and commit to fulfill every demand in society. There are not enough resources, and that's part of the fundamental economic problem of, unlimited needs and, unlimited resources.
The resource that dominates the Chilean economy is copper. Copper mining in Chile, conspicuous by its vast open pits, accounts for as much as half of the country's almost $80 billion of annual exports. Alongside a stable domestic economy, growing global demand for the metal has fueled the country's growth, with the correlation strengthening markedly from 2005 onwards. The commodities boom, be that in softs or metals, began in the early 2000s following China's accession to the World Trade Organization. From 2003, copper prices ramped up with just the briefest of dips after the global financial crisis in 2007 and 2008. But some say there are grounds for concern. Chile's biggest customer is China, where an economic slowdown is seeing a drop in copper demand. But Mr. Larraín, for one, is unconcerned. He says price volatility will waver around what he believes to be a structurally higher long-term copper price.
The Chinese economy right now is in a deceleration phase. We're used to levels of around 10%. Well, this year will be closer to 8, maybe a little less than 8%. Still, that will have demand for copper, but not growing at the levels of, let's say, last year. So we've had a reduction in copper prices, which is what we have during the cycle. It's a cyclical thing, but there is a structural change. The structural change is that copper prices will not go back to the levels that they had. Why? Because the emerging world, and particularly China, but also India, which is starting to become more and more important in the copper market, there is a urbanization, people coming from the rural areas to the cities. You need to build infrastructure. Those needs will be there for a long time.
But Chile's needs are now, at least in education, the key to developed country status and a salve for inequality with its promise of social mobility. Chile's problem is university education. Although there are now 1 million students in Chilean universities compared with 200,000 20 years ago, the quality of the teaching is often poor. It's also expensive. President Piñera has increased, albeit modestly, scholarships and reduced rates on student loans. That's taken some of the steam out of the protests, but upping quality will be a harder slog. Yet, all these problems are in a way the problems of success. Chile has done an extraordinary job in reducing poverty over the past 20 years, and now President Piñera and his government have to deal with the challenges of a new and expanding middle class. But it is at least a sign of progress. More encouraging still, such challenges are spreading across Latin America. John Paul Rathbone, Financial Times.